In this video, I'm sharing with you guys why I have officially converted from the clay bar to the clay mitt. So skip this part if you already know, but if you're wondering what the difference between a clay bar and a clay mitt is, of course a clay bar is kind of like a more adhered version of Play-Doh, right? And a clay mitt basically has this feeling of clay-ish area on the underside, but of course the other side is like a sort of wash mitt or microfiber towel material, and they're used in the exact same ways. So if I'm using a clay bar on the paint, I spray my clay lubricant, I clay that area by rubbing back and forth the clay bar over that area, then I mop it up with my microfiber towel. The exact same thing happens with the clay mitt. There's nothing changed except for literally the type of product you're using. Now for a long time I stayed away from clay mitts, not on purpose, but more just because I don't like thinking about too many things at one time and I'm focusing on one step at a time. And because the clay bar, clay mitt conversation doesn't matter to me that much, I just didn't really change. But the reality is I have basically thrown away all of my clay bars at this point, and you should know why. So let me tell you the first reason I have switched over. Because of the way this type of product is manufactured, when I rub the clay mitt over the paint, I get a lot of absorption from the clay lube into this kind of microfiber material. And what that ends up causing for me in the clay process is a cleaner clay bar experience. Of course, when I use a clay bar and I'm rubbing that lubricant all over the paint, no absorption is happening. And so I'm splashing lubricant to the left, to the right, up and down, and I'm getting overspray in some sense on all of these other parts of the paint, which is not a big deal, but the fact that I can use a clay mitt, get the same claying done, removing those embedded materials, it's just as glossy, and I have at the same time absorbed a lot of the clay lubricant so that when I come in to dry it, I have very little to dry. It just makes the whole situation way cleaner. Now the second reason why I like the clay mitt, and this should probably be at the top of everybody's list, is that I don't really care if I drop it. If I'm doing an outside detail, if I'm doing a detail inside, whether I drop it face down or on its back, halfway through the detail, all I do anyways is run it under my sink and wring it out. So it's not like a clay bar in that when you drop it, you have to sit there and try to pick out the embedded gravel pieces and rock pieces and then try to knead it all back into the center and then go back in. This doesn't have the same annoying drop factor. Now before I go on telling you why I have converted to the clay mitt, if you guys are hearing this and you're thinking that you might be a convert to the clay mitt as well from the traditional clay bar, go ahead and hit the like button because it lets me know that not only are you getting some information that you like, but some information that's going to help you in your detailing business. And that leads me into the third reason why I've switched to a clay mitt, and that is to clean it. All I really need to do is wash it out in a bucket of soapy water solution or run it under my sink and then let it dry. There's really not a lot of cleaning that happens with my clay mitt. Whereas when you're using a clay bar, if you want to get to a clean side, you're going to have to press it together and knead it together like you're doing Play-Doh. And honestly, clay is a lot harder than Play-Doh, right? And so it does take a second. It kind of wears on your forearms if you're constantly kneading it and trying to get it to a clean side or a new side to go to a new panel. Now, the fourth reason why I love the clay mitt is that in the cold weather, it doesn't get hard. For anybody who's tried to use a clay bar in the wintertime, you know how annoying it is because it's basically hard as a rock, and trying to use it in the first place in the cold air is basically impossible, but then trying to use cold water or cold clay lubricant with your cold clay bar is a recipe for disaster. And you really don't get as good of results with a cold clay bar as you do with like a room temperature one, because that clay is so stuck together and so hard it can actually cause damage to the paint if you slam it down a little too hard. You want some of that, let's call it gooiness or kneadiness to the clay bar in order for it to actually work and do what it's supposed to do. And the final reason why I have switched over to the clay mitt is because I can order 2, 3, 4, 5 of these clay mitts. I can keep this whole one for kind of the major areas of the car, and then I can take my other clay mitts and I can cut them to the size that I want them to be based on the area that I'm working on. Now this is totally not necessary with a clay mitt because this is so malleable and it's so easy to get behind things and in small areas, but I do actually like to have a smaller surface area to work with a clay mitt than this, and so I will cut this right down the middle, keep the top area, and use that top half of this for side view mirrors or really tiny areas on the lower rocker panels or on small areas of the trunk or on the front grille area. It's a really easy thing to do that makes my detail process faster. So guys, there you go, 5 reasons why I have officially switched to the clay mitt, and I would probably encourage most of you to do that, whether you're a consumer or a professional detailer. This crosses those boundaries really easily. Of course, I will link up all this stuff in the YouTube description box below so you can see what I suggest you purchase. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, thanks for being involved. Keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.